start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So to start with, I'd like to amend our agenda that we inadvertently left off a public hearing. So I would like to create 2A following number 2, and it would be the public hearing for the Eden 27 Master Matrix facility site. We had published it, so we feel like we can put it on the agenda. Any questions on that? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for both the minutes and the agenda. As amended.
I'll second it.
Got a motion from Mike and a second from Bill to approve the minutes and the agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 9 a.m. Consider for approval proclamation from NIAC. I believe Mike's reviewing it right now.
See no problem with it. Make a motion to approve that proclamation. I'll second it.
Motion from Mike, second from Bill to approve the proclamation from NIAC. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. 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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, I came up sooner, so we're on. I'll put you on speaker. Yeah.
All right, so 9 a.m. 2A, Eden 27 Master Matrix public hearing. Motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second.
Motion from Denver and a second from Jensvold to open the public hearing for Eden 27. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Open it for public comment on this site. I went out and reviewed it. All the scoring was accurate. It was quite a ways from any other house, or wasn't anywhere near any of our district tiles. So I felt like it was pretty accurate representation. This would be north of Thompson. Would that be 5 miles, and then a mile west, and just barely north. It's actually the farm place that I remember Myron Howland living on many years ago when his kids were growing up. They will be taking some of the buildings down and having an offset there. Any further comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close.
Yep. I'll second.
I got a motion from Stetzer and a second from Jensvold to close the public hearing for Eden 27 site. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So now
Guys, this is Mitch. Appreciate working with you. I think this is going to be a good site long term. Awesome setbacks to neighbors. Good road, just a mile off there. Pete Farland, the landowner and farmer we're working with. So,
Yep.
We'll be in touch. Thank you very much, Mike, for taking care of this.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
You want to make the motion to approve the?
I'll second.
So I've got a motion from Stenzer and a second from Jensvold to approve the, what do we say, the approve the master matrix form of the Eden 27 site. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
What's your name for the record?
Ben Donchie.
Okay. I just didn't recognize you, I'm sorry.
No, I got a beard now. Totally different. Yep.
All right. Scott Minders or other designee will discuss secondary road matters. Oh, Doug?
Hi. Well, we're out doing as much as we can for as long as we can, taking advantage of the frozen conditions. Hauling out of rock and fixing as many spots as we can. Started early, a little bit last week to take advantage again, and it's gonna get worse before it gets better, I'm afraid.
That is what it is.
Yeah. And extreme weather and 3 days of rain really hurt.
So are all the graders out trying to knock it down?
Yeah, we're hauling on spot loads.
Yeah. Because I know the area, 440th off 69 going west is pretty bad. They're hauling grain, they're hauling feed, they're hauling livestock, and 440th going north and south by the substation is bad too.
Yeah, some of it can't be avoided, but
Yeah.
it'd be nice if they would take advantage of the frozen conditions too, but,
Yeah.
you-
The worst part about it is a lot of those feed trucks they are doing that, they're taking advantage of the frozen conditions, but
that's good.
they're already behind from the blizzard.
Yep.
And they never did get caught up, so they got animals. I heard there was one barn that went up without feed for 5 days.
Oh, man. Yeah, they need to get through, that's for sure. We're doing as much as we can.
I told one person that called me up, and it's someone I knew I could get away with it with. I said, "You called the wrong number." I said, "I have the number from Mother Nature. It's 1-800-BAD-LUCK."
There you go. We've been getting quite a few calls, but people understand. I mean,
Yeah, it's just that rain on top of it.
Yeah.
It's just
I know most of the farmers I talk to, if they have to haul grain, they're trying to do it early morning and then quit.
Good.
Yeah.
But it's still not getting firmed up in the morning.
no, it's,
at least we're not in Nebraska.
yeah, it's always
Or
very summer.
southwest Iowa again.
And
The core up there, they didn't let the reservoir out. They started letting the reservoir out this spring. They didn't start, so that's gonna flood that whole thing like it did, what was that, 2010 or 11 back when it
Yeah.
flooded so bad?
Yeah.
They started letting that thing out up there because it was getting full. From what I understand, they didn't start in January when they could have, I guess.
Ben was in our office before the meeting started here, and I tried to answer as many questions as he had, so.
Well, I would hope everything's at least shaped by the end of the week. It may not be the best condition, but if we can just shape it before the rain comes and shed the water, it'd help.
Yeah, I hope so too.
About the time you shape it, then a truck goes across it. Makes sense.
Yeah. But we just need some warm temps and get the frost up and out. Start again, I guess.
Driveway one of my house is worse than anything I've seen. Told the kids they gotta get run out of the car.
Yeah, I think every mile has bad spots.
The guy that rents my hog building, he was thrilled with my driveway. I got a little mud in one spot. He said, "Oh, that's great compared to everything else." I need all rock too. Any other comments or questions for Doug? You have anything you want to offer?
No, I've been-
Got it.
Just pretty simple downstairs. Right, yep. Do the best we can with what we got, I guess. It's a bad situation. Nothing we can do about it again.
Yeah.
Well, it's really not new. I remember as a kid that we had to
Oh, yeah.
take tractors to the hard surface for buses. So
Right.
it's not unique.
One question I might have, what is your guys' affiliation with the school as far as when they can run on these secondary roads? Is there any correlation there? I mean, I talked to Scott about it the other day, and he kind of discussed the fact that they really didn't have anything to do with that.
Mark has contact with Darwin and, they talk very often. So Mark has a lot of input in that, and, so yeah, between school and Mark, it's discussed pretty thorough.
Sure. Well, it seemed they ran maybe a couple of days longer than they could have or should have possibly, but
Yeah,
it seemed that they were really hard on the road. Because they ran that Monday when we pulled that feed truck in. And they ran that Monday night, and then Tuesday they ran, I think Wednesday morning was the first day they went to hard surface roads only.
Okay. Yeah. I know they talk.
So where are they at now? Are they running just hard surface road?
Yep, there's bus stops on certain corners. The bus comes and sits, and we take the kids down, pick up, drop them off. The worst part is they come up 120th to 370th, come over to my house, turn around my driveway, and then they go back. So 4 times a day they go back and forth. They were probably responsible for most damage on that road. And the rendering truck decided he had to go down that road too, so I mean, it was a bad deal all the way around. But that stretch of road is virtually impassable with anything less than a full bed pickup. Even that's a challenge.
Kind of curious, is there regulations as far as requirement of disposal of rendering?
I don't know.
not this time of year.
Yeah, well,
They just lay there frozen.
yeah, the roads they
The
keep.
site I'm noticing is on the highway, and they've been sitting there for probably 3 weeks, building up and building up.
Are they out of sight?
No.
They're supposed to be.
As I say, they do
There's
have to have them on
There's a
site.
containment thing there,
Yep.
and a few of them are laying on the bottom with the doors open, and then the other one's in a dumpster that's overflowing.
They're supposed to be not visible from the road. I think it's
That's why they have their
official language from the DNR, but I believe
little
there's,
fences around their spot where they put them usually.
And I've seen the rendering truck drive right by it.
may not be the right company or ain't paying his bill, one of the two.
Yeah.
There's several different companies. But, yeah, that stock removals.
So just noting that, watching, so when their permit comes through, watching.
All right.
You're out of this one.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Doug from secondary roads? All right. Consider for approval fiscal year 2020 secondary road budget and 5-year construction program.
These are what we submit to the DOT, and Carla signs, and then Terry, and one copy is yours, Carla.
Okay.
So probably the most solid part of this 5-year plan is maybe the first year, and everything else is a little more variable.
Yep, the first year is always concrete, and then after that, it's kind of a wish list. Things change.
Like the amount of rock you'll need for the spring.
Did we up that at all? By how much?
Well, probably, and that's variable too. We probably raised it by 50,000, and
What percent is that?
a little less than 10. Between rural basic and our Fund 20, we have over 500,000. So,
That's strictly rock, right?
yep.
How'd you come out on snow removal budget?
Well, it's ongoing.
Yeah.
We're at over 80% right now.
So we're still under.
With, that's includes the first payroll of March here. So we've got one more to go, and then the claims. So, right, the first year in my 36 will be over.
We will be.
Yeah.
When are we gonna chew up 20 more percent?
Well, that's a big category. That's entire maintenance. So there's money there. we may have to maybe not be able to do something this spring because of that, but
But I mean, where did we, if we're at 80%, I'm hoping the snow is over, so.
But there have been years when it hasn't been.
yeah, just our snow budget is 80, Mike. Our overall budget is about 55.
Yeah,
I imagine
if
there's,
you don't anticipate, I'm sorry.
will you, be doing maintenance on the equipment as you put it away? Like the blades and all that, or you do that in the fall?
No, that's ongoing.
My question is, where are we gonna chew up the extra 20% in the snow budget itself?
I mean, where are we gonna get that extra from?
No.
Maybe I'm not following it. You said you've used 80% of our snow budget.
Yeah.
What he's saying
We
is,
have
where's
20%
the other
left.
20% gonna come from, which
Oh,
would be
well,
from future snowstorms if we have them.
We still have, this month's claims, we still have the payroll that we're currently in, and a lot of that won't go into snow, but a lot of the, comp time that the guys take, they won't take that till spring, summer.
So we'll chew up that 20%.
That'll go back to snow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And how much do you think you'll go over on that?
Oh, boy.
Not a big deal. It's-
I would think, our overall snow is like 281,000, so I would think 300 be close. It's just a
Not too
guess, yeah. Our, material is good. We've got plenty of material going into fall. We'll still have to get a little bit, but.
Typical.
I'll look at that one too. That's the stuff 2021. I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2020 secondary road budget and 5-year construction program.
I make a motion to approve the secretary road budget as adopted by the board.
I'll second it.
And a motion from Mike to, in your motion, did it include both of those?
Yes.
Okay. To approve the 2020 secondary road budget and 5-year construction program. Motion by Mike, seconded by Jensvold. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Doug.
Yep, thank you.
Question first before you go.
Sure.
Do you think tiling these roads would help?
A lot of our blacktops, we've put sub-drains in. Probably a third of our blacktops have sub-drains. Gravels, that's kind of cost prohibitive.
Suppose it depends on if it's a yearly problem with a frost boil or something.
Yeah. And they typically don't come in the same spots.
I'm no engineer, but if you ran a 5-inch tile down the middle of the road, look like, I don't know what you call them, French
French drain.
drains.
They're like sub-drains.
Um, you know, tiling is $2 a mile, I mean, that's
Plus rock.
plus rock, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, what do we got, 600, not even 600 for some of the flat now.
yeah.
That's not expensive.
So, can I comment on
Yes,
this?
please do.
We did that in our shop yard.
Yeah.
We dug down and got a tile that's full of 1.5" clean rock. The problem that we ran into is when the fines run across that, all the drainage from our yard washes down into that, it seals it up. So what has to happen is you come back and you dig out the top foot of that 1.5" clean rock, and then it works again. But as soon as it fills back up, you're right
That's
back where
the
you
drain
were.
down, not, I think this intent would be more for the pressure from underneath.
Okay, and I mean, I agree with that. Frost boils would probably fix that problem. Obviously, I'm no engineer either. I'll stick with Mike on that. But the problem we're dealing with now is the top, this much of the road is solidly froze.
Yeah.
So the sub-drain isn't really gonna help that situation we're in today very much.
I used to
Well,
work
if you
in
put an
this-
intake right in the middle of the road.
The bottom of the hill, you could, got a couple spots that would work.
When I worked for the city of Thompson, we did several areas, frost boil problems.
Yep, yep.
And it helped
It'll fix that.
immensely. And they ended up chip sealing over the top, so they didn't have, you know, it
Right.
shed it
Right.
instead, and it definitely helped that.
Yeah, the sub-drains we've put in on our blacktops, that's helped immensely. Miller Road's one of them, that's flat and just moisture sticks there, but
I think it'd be worth a test mile,
yeah,
you know.
Take a bad spot.
there's a lot of them.
Pick the worst one.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, there's a lot of those too.
oh, we'll get there. Week, 2 weeks.
The thing that I've noticed this spring is where we've laid down 1.5" clean rock in the past. It's a nice base down underneath, and those spots are holding. I've got one right in front of my hog house, was a pretty bad spot, Mike can attest to that. That, they laid a couple loads there, well, it's perfect. So, I don't know if that's, I mean, it'd be costly to lay down, I don't know how much you'd have to put down, 200 ton a mile to get it, a base put in there, or how much it would take.
When you resurface, it's typically 300
Right.
at least, so.
So I don't know what it would take for 1.5" rock to lay a base down underneath and then put roadstone over top of that. I mean, it'd be costly. Anything we do is gonna be costly.
Or at least do it in some of those really bad spots.
Right, right, and that's what they've done, they've really bad spots, but,
Yeah, most of the spring we'll haul 1.5" to purity spots. I mean, you use the smaller stuff, you just gonna seal it,
Mhm.
so.
the frustrating part, and Doug and I talked about this, I mean, our roads are basically in the same condition they were in 1960. And we've increased truck traffic exponentially, as far as wind towers and hog sites and grain trucks. I mean, we got a grain system that's rivals any commercial elevator, just about, so, I mean, I'm not the only guy, but,
Pushing it all down in the middle and
yeah, I mean, even when we're just hauling corn out on a good dry day, it still softens up that road a little bit.
well, and then, you know, like during the fall, it's legal to run out of there going 90,000 besides,
Right.
so
Right.
that's a lot of weight, a lot of pressure on some.
Well, like this fall when it was wet, I mean, oversized loads weren't helping anything to do that either, so we softened them up before we went into freeze up, so that didn't help anything either, but we've been hard on them, but,
We had the perfect storm though, of wet and,
well,
I mean.
when it started raining and it got to 40 degrees, it just softened up the top 6, 8, 10 inches.
Yeah,
The bottom
juice
just fell
made
out.
a soup ball out of it,
That
and
rain
where to go,
Virtually
frost it underneath
nonstop.
it.
I mean, that's the worst, but, I mean, every spring we struggle with spots. I mean, you guys see it the same as I do, there's always
The
stuff.
thawing would have been bad enough, but that rain was
Right.
a little insult to injury on top of it.
Well, there's another issue too that I don't know how to say this politically correct, but
Who cares?
we've got a couple of maintainer operators that really don't know how to run a maintainer, and that does not help the situation at all. And I know Mark's worked with them and worked with them. I don't know what the issue is, but they just can't seem to get how to maintain a road. I mean, I've got potholes that have been in front of my house. That one a half mile off the blacktop. Been there for 5 years. And it's just, they just slide a little gravel into the pothole and think it's fixed. I don't know what to do with it, but it's frustrating for us out there because we see it every day. Washboards, 11 months out of the year, they're there.
Yeah, you gotta get it packed into that pothole, cause it just goes scraped across there, and it levels it full, and then the water gets in there, and then people drive through it, and
Flashes.
some people like me actually look at them and try and not drive through those spots, because you
Well,
know it's
everybody-
flashing the gravel out each
If
time you go
everybody
through
would
it.
do that, that would make a big difference, but we
Yeah.
get so much
That
But you-
issue needs to be addressed.
traffic.
Yeah, it does, and I know Mark's working with it, but the only way you can get those potholes out is to cut them out. You know,
You
these
gotta
guys
run
don't.
around it, lay it back down, and
And right in front of our shop, and the county's got a wheel packer that goes in the back of that road grader machine. And Mark came out and bladed right in front of our shop there. He did that mile and packed it. Night and day difference. Huge.
and timing is everything on that. You want
Yeah,
moisture, enough
right.
moisture in
The
it.
perfect
where-
amount of moisture for about
Like it
15
down,
minutes.
seals
You
it.
got
Too
that
dry,
wind.
it won't work, too wet, it won't work.
Right.
But when you have all those miles of road, you can't hit
Yeah.
every mile at the same time.
They only got
So that's the
600
story of
miles.
the Three Bears.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's an ongoing battle, but
Well, anyway, I just walked by at the right time, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks
Have
for
a good
your
day.
input.
See you later.
I'm not sure, who was that from?
Mike Brown,
Mike Brown?
he lives down the road to the north of me.
The old Invic place?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, C&R Crafts up in Leland.
Okay.
110th Avenue, I think is the road.
Sounds right. Yeah, that's the road to Faber. Take the short route to Forest City from Thompson, that's the challenging road.
Yeah, I suppose.
What happened?
110th,
Well, east of Thompson,
Good
so.
shot.
110th and 370th, he's just a half mile north of that, a little better. Right on the line fence.
All right, anything else for back, we were back on number 3, but, anything else on that? Hearing none, I'll have to get hold of Chris to,
If you guys do get any calls, just send them our way.
I haven't had to. It's just the way it is, so we'll do what we can when it comes time to, I think, like my senior year in 78, 79, it was worse than this. And, we never had the thaw, so that, if I remember right, the snow stayed all winter long. And, but if I remember right, the corn was planted before May that year. So maybe
Let's hope so.
it'll just repeat.
they said April's supposed to be above normal temperatures.
Wow.
Yeah,
I hope so. We're due.
yes, Mother Nature's been on a rampage here for a year now, and she's about due to take a rest here.
So, thanks.
Yep. Let's
Thank
see, 7511, I just have to push the 7511, right?
Mhm.
I think it was Hardin County.
This is Chris.
We would, really appreciate your presence in here,
Okay.
so I don't have to do anything.
Apparently not.
It's high tech phones and low tech people trying to run them, it's,
What section you in?
Forest?
I'm in Linden, I believe. I got Linden. I'd be Linden 13. The old Becker place.
Barely.
okay.
No.
We have a lot of issues with drainage on the roads.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
But if they're on the roads, that's secondary roads.
well, but I believe they want you to take care of the problem.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll get on it.
They pass them up to us.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yes,
We would all like to really pass the buck somewhere, so.
yes. Okay,
Chris will take care of it all.
I'm on it.
Get your boots on, get your UTV
I need
out
that
there.
four-wheeler, Mike.
Mm.
What?
I'll get it.
Do you have anything
I
for
do
us
not,
today?
no.
We're gonna need different shoes.
I will need different shoes.
Yeah, those don't look like real good mutters there.
Nope.
There's a tile on the south side of Thompson that,
Going east and west,
yeah, it goes,
just outside of town.
no, it's in town. It's actually it's boiling up out of in a lady's backyard. I can't remember her name. I was out there, looked at it last year.
Which side of the blacktop?
And, I believe, Adam Hickman was gonna get out there and look at, you know which one we're talking about?
Not necessarily, because there's about 4 districts
There's
in
a trustee
Thompson,
district
so.
there that is the south end of
No.
town.
Right.
It's not the trustee though.
And
It's,
DD 22,
it goes into DD one.
Well, yeah.
That's how.
They all do.
12 goes into that.
and that's trustee. I want to think it's DD 22.
12,
12 is on the south end of town going.
Yeah, that's a trustee drain.
Yeah.
So then I can't do anything with it.
That's the one that they wanted to turn over to us, but it's a long process.
Yeah, they haven't got that accomplished yet.
Yeah, so that's, I was thinking the trustee was further south. That goes right into town, don't it?
So it shows trustee there, so that's also trustee south.
Yeah, the whole thing is trustee until it gets
So-
to the creek.
You'd have to contact Sue Mathis.
Who's the third one? Norm, Sue, and
That guy. Leroy.
Okay.
Leroy.
Store.
Oh.
I'll just
Not
call.
Elmer, but
Larry.
Larry.
It's not Larry. Is
I'm
it Larry?
assuming
Okay.
I believe they had Adam, that them guys lined up to take care of it. And I'm guessing they just didn't get to it for the same reasons. A lot of things didn't happen last fall, so.
So you know where the boiling up is?
I can't remember the ladies.
East side of the blacktop?
It's on the east side of the blacktop. I think the road that goes back to where they built the new houses back there, it's the lady right there on the corner as you turn. And it comes up
Is it
out of it.
Larson?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, that sounds right.
She's got the branched out house on the south side of that little road.
Yeah. And there's,
She did mention something.
water's boiling out of there, so.
So they need to contact
All right.
Sue to get a contractor, so I'm sure she'll call Norm or Larry.
In theory, they've been lined up already. I'm just guessing.
I can probably talk to Sue, see what she knows about it.
All right. Is it Don's mother?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
She works at that.
Yep.
All. I'll see what she knows.
All right.
I don't see that.
Anything else?
I was thinking there was some digging done back there last year.
They cleaned out that ditch.
The ditch.
Larson did.
But that tile that is boiling up, I was thinking they might have done something.
They could have been out there, maybe it didn't fix, or maybe, I don't know.
No, I don't think they've done any digging there yet. 'Cause I was out there looking at it. And it was done boiling out of the ground then, and you just look down in there, and there was actually water flowing in it.
This is in her yard, then you can see it.
Yeah, there's a, if I remember right, it's one of those big metal dome intakes. I looked down in it, the water was actually flowing in there, but whether there's a blockage there or whether it was just too wet for.
I know there's, to the east of that, there's some trees, so that could be.
Yes, yeah.
Any other drainage issues? Okay. Thank you, Chris.
You bet. Did you have any questions on claims?
No.
One here. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll move on to number 6, open forum.
Did you guys see Ted or,
I talked to Ted at the forum on Friday.
I never was able to find.
I mentioned it to him, he said he was around, he said he looked for us, must have been later in the
Boy.
afternoon or something.
I was there all the way to the end of the day.
Well, no, you were there till what, 3? That's not the end of the day for them.
Oh,
They were there until late.
all right, well, yeah, he was after 3 or 4.
I did talk to him here and he
You just
said,
need to sign that.
okay, last week. I did talk to Ted, he looked for us, he said, he asked me if we were down there, because he looked around for us. We dismissed him.
I talked to Terry Baxter, but I didn't get to talk to either.
We had some really good conversations with Terry Baxter and
Who's he?
Dennis
He's
Booth.
Hancock County's,
He comes into Fort City, so he's really close here.
He's got the Hancock
Southern,
Fire Force.
Oh, new guy.
and he's got Southern Sioux too.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Ted Baxter? Yeah, maybe not.
he's very,
That's wrong.
very good.
I had a long
He
conversation with
listens,
him
which is nice.
on Wednesday.
He's a great listener.
Yeah, no, he seems to be,
We
I had a long conversation with Dennis too, as far as that
We had
goes.
pretty good debate going on with other supervisors to the south of us from Wright County about the mental health.
Oh, yeah,
And here's Terry just watching the back and forth. And,
yeah.
you know, there was 2 different sides of the story, and so I interject. So our solution is, we both had issues with the system. So our solution, and we're working on that, and so then I walked over and talked to Linda Upmeyer and told her what the solution would be, and she seemed in favor of it, so we'll see what we can get done.
And the supervisor from Wright County did completely agree that we shouldn't have to do, just because they believe that everything's fine, we shouldn't have to do business with someone we don't believe in. And then also, us wanting to do something else shouldn't affect some other county that doesn't want to. I mean, like Emmett, you know.
It's a contiguous borders,
Yeah,
it's outrageous.
Did it make the funnel?
Oh, with leadership support, anything's possible.
Okay.
That's how we did it last year.
Okay. Just want to make sure it made the funnel. That's all. If it didn't, you know, then hey, it's moot until 365, then we'll see what happens then.
Well, we won't have to wait that long to find out what happens.
No, 214 days.
So I thought we had some pretty good conversations down there. And we had conversations on Friday too, at the forum.
Would have joined you, but we had a little issue here in Forest today that I was spread real thin with. Some fool took 600,000 gallons of water, and the city would really like it back.
The mayor was there for a while.
Oh, I know. He was a little frazzled.
What's that?
The blue water main.
The water main over by Winnebago, they lost 600,000 gallons in 2 hours. It has not resurfaced. They do not know where it went to. U.S. Geological Survey was out here. Everybody was out here trying to find it. They could not find it.
It had
It's
to
gone.
dump into a tile somewhere.
Somewhere it's somewhere in a tile, but it did not resurface at all.
And have they found the spot?
Yes,
Oh, they did.
they did. They got that within about 2 hours after the alarms went off. And then it was trying to get it fixed.
Yeah, they had a boil thing in the water here, boiler. And
Till
so
Sunday.
Till Sunday at 1
we were
o'clock.
giving away bottled water.
Really?
And all the kids
Six.
go with a bottle of water.
6,000 gallons of free water.
Everybody could take, every household could take a case, a 45 bottle case per day. They had as much water as they needed.
And we still had some left over.
So any bucket could bind up all the stuff.
Yeah, he had to leave ISAC early because it was down there.
Got the call at 4 o'clock in the morning, was here by 6, and was putting everything together. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a big water bill for somebody.
They really want to know where it went to, because the tiles couldn't handle it. Somebody would have seen it in the tile somewhere, and it didn't go through. So they are really, really nervous now about
where that water may be setting. That's what the geological people were talking about on Saturday.
Underneath, is it in the ground somewhere, or?
Could be. So, let's just hope we don't have a moon crater somewhere here in Forest City shortly.
Oh, fascinating, just saying.
Throws a panic into the jail when you get 20 guys who don't know where to go to the bathroom.
Alright, you're leading
Want to
them
go
all,
outside?
you're leading them all out back, were you?
Part of it you can't.
No, construction porta potties were gone, I suppose.
That was the
Really
plan
isn't
right
that
there,
much
was
water.
called porta potty.
But
It
we're
really
gonna,
isn't that much water.
No, not really.
But it drained the towers.
The tower was just
Yeah. but I
flushed
mean,
out.
Volume wise.
Yeah, well.
And it creates havoc with the system when you lose all your pressure and it stirs everything up and.
not anywhere near 8 inches of rain anyway, huh?
Andy said it was
No,
about 1 million gallons that they lost.
A million.
1 million now it is?
The initial was probably 600,000, but it's probably.
600 and 1,000 in the tank they know of, and then the whatever after that, because it kept flushing until they could
And
get
the
it
pumps
fixed care
kept
of.
going and.
For 2 hours.
Remember,
They were going on high drive for 2 hours.
Gallons it is for an inch of rain over an acre.
90 railroad tankers.
90 railroad tankers,
And I don't think else they hold.
30,000. Those tankers there.
The thing of it is, if it went, you should almost be able to follow it. It had to create a suck hole
Yeah.
somewhere. When you're
Unless it
digging
went
it up.
directly to a tile somewhere.
Right, but you should be able to follow that. I mean, I've dug up tile holes and so have you guys. I mean, you follow the hole, but
Yeah,
you kinda gotta be real careful when you're digging it to find it, to follow it, but Jesus, you don't just hide a million
unless
gallons
there's
in
already
your
a
pocket.
cavern cut somewhere, but if they've been losing the water, they didn't notice that too, so.
Wasn't it near the railroad?
Tower right there. Yeah.
They said it was near the sawmill.
So, some of the people over at Winnebago were joking. They said, yeah, we're tiptoeing around the floor because we never know what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Big old sinkhole.
Don't drive that RV over here. We don't need it.
All right, anything else we're open for? All good discussion. All right, we'll move on to, consider for approval, 70 monthly county claims.
Elizabeth just walked in. I don't know if she's ready
She's
or
not
not.
touched in.
Yeah, the few bills are all mine for 7 year roads.
It's a good thing DD 12 has a ditch cleaned out, so it can go somewhere. Into DD 1, which goes into the river, which isn't draining right now.
Yeah, the water was just about over the blacktop south of Alpha Center, the middle road there. That creek there's got really big, huge drifts in it, and
That's a big ditch too.
down there, brings a
Wow,
lot of
water.
water from there over by Thompson.
Yeah.
In fact, when that rained at that basement collapsed over there, I can't remember what they had, 5 or 6 inches of rain. That was the night that Forest City got the 8 inches.
Yeah.
And we didn't get near that much, the creek wasn't full at all. Then all of a sudden it got there from Thompson and it just kept filling up, filling up, filling up.
We've got do some custom work for Anna Herring. We've got that half section lays. I think that's the same ditch that goes through her farm.
Oh, yeah.
She can not get much for rain at all and drown out a bunch of crop because it just comes in and out she goes.
Spreads out, yeah.
If you get it upstream, it's coming. That holds a lot of water. That.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. The ditch was pretty normal. And a day later, there it all was.
Yeah.
Without any rain.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, last fall when it was so wet there, Randy Geese came, you know him?
Yeah.
He's done a greenskeeping at the golf course for, since it opened in '76 or whatever it was.
Sure.
And I'd never seen it either. And there's always, the number 2 green has been an island before, and it's never had water over it. Last fall it had 6 inches of water over the green. It's as high as it's ever been.
Don't believe it. We had plenty of water.
Yeah, it was, like I said, Mother Nature was good.
Yeah.
So was that a commercial? You don't want to mess with Mother Nature? What was that commercial for?
With butter, not butter, but fake butter.
Oh, fake butter, yeah. Blue
Parquet, not parquet.
Parquet or,
Yeah.
is it Blue Bonnet?
Yeah, that's good Blue Bonnet.
Yeah. You don't mess
I
with
can't
butter.
believe it's not butter. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
She still has the upper hand no matter what we think we can do.
Yeah.
We try our best, but that's all you get.
This is talks to me about the climate changes. We've always had climate change.
We've been having global warming ever since the Ice Age.
Right.
Then we had a mini Ice Age, and then we had global warming after that.
Right.
Yeah. And climate's been changing throughout. The Greenland isn't a very green place, but they used to grow grapes in Greenland. It's too cold there now. This one.
I don't dispute there's probably some change, but how much of it is influenced by what we're doing, I don't know. But
Yeah. That in, 12 years, or that we're gonna destroy the planet, and I think
they've been talking about that for 20 years.
no matter what happens, the planet will flush us out, and it'll still be here. We
Right.
may destroy ourselves, but,
Global warming and global cold and global warming.
yeah, back in the 70s, it was global cooling. It was a good snowmobile years.
You get winters like this, the guy thinks about buying one.
They had that handy this winter.
I still have the same snowmobiles from those 70s. All my
Collectors.
old John Deere snowmobiles yet.
Do you really?
sitting in
You
the-
do realize if you got a registration for it as a vintage, you only buy it once. $25, lifetime.
They're, they're all vintage.
Then if you go ride on a public trail, then you have to have a trail.
I got a 440 Liquefire and JDX8 and a little 250 Spitfire. Can't ride that one unless it's below zero though, because it was just air cooled going across the engine, no fan or anything. Anything above 20 degrees and it would overheat and seize up. You put another motor in it.
Jesus. Huh. I'm sure they're worth pretty good money today.
Yeah, I don't know what they'd be
They,
worth.
they see some stuff come across.
Conditions.
And
Well,
collectors collect.
The JDX8, the seat's really bad. The Spitfire, the material's giving away a little bit, but not as bad. The Liquefire, the seats, yeah, they're all that part. The rest of it is too bad.
How you come in with the claims.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm on the last page.
No pressure.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve this settlement to county claims.
I'll second that.
On a motion from Jens Vold and a second from Stentor to approve the semi-monthly county claims, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Payroll claims.
birthday on Wednesday.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so we're going to do those over together on Wednesday at noon. And you're gonna come, your dad and whoever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. We used to send out these little, we'd have a sheet of all the area farmers and then we'd all mark out who we were gonna talk to. And they quit doing that, so
Sure.
I hope there's more than like three guys there, but.
See what schedule says, I guess. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
You stamped any of them,
Been looking at it, I'm not stamping it.
So do you feel like you did a good job of training Kyle last week at the ISAC? He took Kyle.
Yes, I saw the two of you, like everywhere that you were. Uh-huh.
You went to eat, what was it, Wednesday night you went to eat at the Spaghetti Works?
Oh, yeah, got our free meal,
Got a free meal that night for all of us.
free meal and drinks. Of course, food was a little cold,
Who provided that?
but,
Who provided that?
the Spaghetti Works.
It was one of those things because the waitress took off.
She left. Our waitress left and our food sat over there. And that looks like it's probably our food. And then they asked every other table there if it was ours or not, except for us. And then they finally brought it to us and,
Hey, the rest of these guys.
yeah. Well, you know, and the
How much it
spaghetti,
was.
yeah, this
There was a lot of water involved.
yeah, the Spaghetti Works was really trying to garner some favor with Winnebago County supervisors, because they know what kind of pull we get.
And
Yeah.
That happened
I'm sorry.
at Iowa State. Back when I was there, my father-in-law, the chefs took off, they were mad.
Oh, there, eh? That's
And
even
we sat
worse.
there for about a couple hours.
Wow,
And if I knew my father-in-law,
didn't have enough patience for that.
I was at a conference 20 years ago in Nova Scotia when the unions decided to go on strike. That didn't go so well for food service.
Yeah, but no. Well, Kyle, he's got right in there and had a good long conversation with Secretary of Agriculture.
He's not afraid to.
No,
Ask
he's
questions.
asking questions. I'll give him- He's probably the youngest supervisor ever in the state of Iowa, 21. When he was elected, he's 22 now.
Sure.
He keeps reminding him, no, I'm 22 now.
Kyle Stecker, isn't it?
where's he from?
By Bancroft. His girlfriend and my daughter, one of the daughters that was just here, swapped keys with me, have been best friends since they were little kids. Both gone to the same church all that time. Had Sunday school together and taught Sunday school together, and so he's been at the house many times. Yeah, I did hear the Stanford, well, I guess they can start looking. And the good news is I rode down with Terry and was gonna ride back with you. So I ended up spending the night, Thursday night, at Cassuth County to pick up the tab for my room and my transportation bags. Thank you.
That was pretty much why we couldn't get a room for Thursday night.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
of Blake Shelton.
Blake Shelton concert, yeah.
How are you?
That would have been
Oh, who was it? Somebody I was talking to there got tickets to it.
People standing in line for the VIP thing. Or somebody at our conference.
Well, somebody at the conference got tickets. They figured it was gonna be a late night for them. I can't remember. Was it someone that was,
There's a couple of auditors that we,
yeah, maybe it was, I don't know who it
the recorders.
was.
Carla, do you have any more?
yeah, they're in my office, in the box.
You didn't run into your cop friend again, did you?
No, when we walked down to we didn't see anybody in there. They could have been terrorists there in the skywalk then. Got away with it.
He was telling us a story about on a Saturday night, they open up to kids. I'm not sure how that.
They were all homeless kids?
It's through the Y, isn't
Is
it?
it through the Y? Yeah, they get pretty out of hand in there. So it was through the Y. Why did they bring them around the corners?
That's why.
The guy in the wheelchair, do all of his stuff was there, he was parked in a different spot.
Well, it was a bit further to you. All right.
Yeah.
Yep,
She's right on time.
Morning.
I do what I can. Good morning.
It's 10 o'clock. With Gardner and Company to discuss annual audit report.
All right. First of all, are there any specific questions, or you just want me to
Why
Go-
don't you just kind of go through it?
go through and do what we normally do?
Yeah.
Okay. The first stop then is on page 2, which is Gardner and Company letterhead. And we did rebrand too. I'll bring that to your attention. We've been Gardner Thompson for years, and Dave Thompson actually retired December 31st, and so we went through a rebranding and we're back to Gardner and Company, which we had been prior to being Gardner Thompson. So the independent auditor's report goes ahead and discusses management's responsibility for the financial statements along with the auditor's responsibility. It talks about how the purpose of an audit is to opine on whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented. An audit actually has nothing to do with finding fraud or finding errors. The purpose of the audit is to determine if the financial statements are fairly presented. Our opinion is based on tests and samples. We don't look at every single transaction that goes through the county. We do base our opinions on those tests and samples. This report also gives the opinion on the financial statements, and on page 3, you'll
Question on that statement you just made. Since it's not a fraud audit, quote, how does a institution keep from getting in trouble?
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, if you're just looking for, accounting principles,
Mm-hmm.
And not looking for fraud, because it happens.
It does.
You know, I mean, Lake Mills, we went through it.
I would
It does.
assume you
So
would
how
see
does, how do those responsible, check for that?
Prevent for that?
Yeah, prevent.
Okay. Usually it's with the use of good internal controls. and segregation of duties, which, that's always a report finding in the back of the report. So, the purpose of an audit is to determine whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented. So, we look at the large transactions. We, do a random sample for the smaller transactions, that type of thing. Where you're going to be able to find your fraud or your embezzlement, if you have it, is if you have good internal controls, which that means separating the custody of the cash with the record keeping of the cash. You also want to ensure that not one employee is responsible for a transaction from its inception to its completion. So, for example, with the claims, you have your departments that are initiating those claims. The department heads are supposed to be approving those. Ultimately, they come to Carla's office, and then the auditor has the right to go ahead and audit those claims and look at the supporting documentation. And then ultimately, it comes to the supervisors who look at the claims and approve and decide to pay or not. So that transaction has gone through how many people through the process? And with that segregation of duties, if something were not appropriate, you would hope that one of the stops along the way for that transaction, that it would be red flagged and questioned at that point. Same with the receipts. The receipts come into the different department heads or the different departments and ultimately go through the treasurer's office. And, Julie looks at that supporting documentation. It gets recorded. It's passed through several different sets of hands, several different sets of eyes to look at that. So by having good segregation of duties, you're protecting the county from, inappropriate activity. So that responsibility rests on the governmental entity. From an audit standpoint, the purpose is just opining on the financial statements. The state auditor's office, if something is suspected, if you have something that just doesn't look right, they expect to be called. The code requires that. And then they do agreed upon procedures is what they call it. They don't call it a fraud audit or, an audit. It's agreed upon procedures. And at that point, they come in and they specifically look at what you have questioned or what you don't think is appropriate.
But wouldn't it have to be egregious from our point of view to really jump out at us?
It's the little things. It's been 50 cents that has gotten somebody in trouble before.
Who caught it?
A treasurer's office employee, actually. It's been several years ago. There was a public health clinic or public health department that was running flu clinics. And the nurses would go out and they would do the flu clinics. They would bring their money and their paperwork back, and the bookkeeper position at public health would go ahead and prepare the deposit that went to the treasurer's office. Well, the gal from public health happened to be on vacation, and there was an error, 50-cent error on the treasurer's office caught. So they called public health, and the gal who normally does those deposits wasn't there. So they talked to the public health nurse that had actually done the clinic. And she pulled it up and she says, well, no, you should have $100.50 of cash. And so that's how they found that fraud, was because that person was on vacation, somebody else was stepping in to do. It was a 50-cent error, and they found it.
Was it fraudulent or just a mistake?
It was fraudulent.
They just wanted to take 50 cents.
They took $100. They took all the cash.
Oh, there was only 50 cents left.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
all right.
Yep.
Misunderstood. I thought it meant just
Yep.
50 cents. I'm sorry to work you.
No, it ended up being 100, but the deposit was off, and so they had questioned because the deposit didn't match what it should. Somebody questioned it, which that's what's supposed to happen. So, that's a case that internal control prevented that fraud from being larger, and this person had just started doing it, so, it was less than $1,000 that she had ended up, embezzling. But it was because she was on vacation, somebody else was doing her job, so, all the segregation of duties, things that are suggested, they can work.
And I would guess anything that's caught like that would be caught long before it ever gets to us.
It will.
Usually.
Yeah.
Because, we can look at it and you can think, well, this training, that's something that happens and this and that, but you gotta kind of get used to it. Like when I first got here, that's probably what they do.
And that's why it's important for, Carla's office, especially when they're looking through those claims. They're looking through them with a fine-tooth comb and they're questioning things, and, that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. And, sometimes, with a lot of our clients, the auditor's office gets turned into the bad guy or the claims cops, and, that's that's their job. They're looking out for the taxpayers and the citizens, and same on the receipt side with the treasurer's office. You know, they're questioning that to make sure that the right funds are going in the right places. So ultimately, you're getting all the money collected that needs to, and it's being properly reported.
This is so absurd, I shouldn't even, I had a guy come to me, and he's not dumb, this past week, and said that you found $14 million somewhere, and you paid down our TIF.
What?
I say it's laughable.
Wow.
The guy sells crop insurance even.
Well,
That ain't saying much. I know some of the guys selling crop.
I had a guy.
I just laughed at him. I just,
We wish.
That'd be nice if you could.
That would be great.
I had a supervisor call me that said that he heard there was a guy that lives down towards Titanca that heard that EDF bounced their check to us. Is that true? For the permit? For the permit?
Julie? No, I haven't seen that.
See, how's that stuff get started? Where's it come from?
At least we haven't gotten it back. Yeah.
Because Cassuth County's having a big turbine meeting today, when there's gonna be some weeping and gnashing of teeth, and and then the other thing is that our increase in taxes last year came from the turbine companies that ruined our secondary roads. That's another rumor that's out there. It's been publicized in papers.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Started till last year.
Yeah,
Till this
yeah,
year.
all right, yeah, that's, okay.
Back to the audit report.
Yeah.
Okay.
Point of order.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, page 5 starts management's discussion and analysis, and the pages that follow give some comparative financial statements comparing fiscal year ended June 30th, 18 to June 30th, 17. It also gives the county a chance to explain any changes in the budget during the fiscal year and the thought process going into determining fiscal 19's budget. So Carla provides quite a bit of information for this, and it just gives additional information to the users of the financial statements about, you know, what the thought process was with the budget and with the financial statements. The actual financial statements start on page 15. And again, we have 3 sets of financial statements. We have full accrual, modified accrual, and because the county budget's on cash basis, we do have a budget to actual cash basis comparison in here. On Exhibit A and B, those are the full accrual. They include all the capital assets and the related debt. They are very similar to what you would see in the real world in the private sector with the income statement and balance sheet. So it shows all of the assets and all the liabilities. On Exhibit B, you can see that the change in net position was a positive one for the county this year with an increase of $2.3 million. So that was a nice, healthy increase for the county. You'll also notice...
Slow up a little bit.
Uh-huh.
You will go back to page 8.
Okay.
Can you explain what math restated means?
Okay, that's what I was just getting to.
Oh, okay.
This year, the county was required to implement Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement Number 75, which changed the rules for the actuaries that come up with the other post-employment benefits liabilities that are required to be reported on your financial statement. So the way that the statement reads, it requires the actuaries to use different rules and different processes in determining what your OPEB liability is.
Does that include IPERS too?
No, this is just OPEB. This is just OPEB. And so the statement had to be retroactively implemented, which meant that the beginning balance had to be restated for July 1st, 2017, which we have a footnote in the back that will walk us through that. Okay. But what happened is that the actuary had to go in and use the new standards for them and calculate what the liability would have been at July 1st of 2017 if they'd used the new rules to calculate that. And so for the MD&A, which is the page that you're looking at, that part of it does not have to be restated. So that was as presented in last year's audit report. So that's what that means. And then the new the new total for July 1st is included in the financial statements then. So we'll go through that a little bit.
So this might be an elementary question, but why did that go down from 2017 to 2018 long-term liabilities?
Because you paid off, you
No
refunded,
restate?
no restatement, but you crossover refunded the completion of the bond. During
Okay.
fiscal 18,
All right.
you had a $14 million
Gotcha.
bond payment that,
Gotcha.
when the crossover refunding
That's
was
where the
completed.
14 million probably comes in.
Yeah,
our
that could be.
Financing is where the 14 million came from.
Yeah,
Solve
it was the
that problem.
crossover refunding.
So, if anybody asks, that's where it came from.
That's what it was. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so again, Exhibit B, like I said, we had a change in net position, 17 and 18. Change in net position of 2.3 million. Exhibit C and Exhibit E are your modified accrual financial statements, and this mirrors the GAAP report that Carla submits to the Department of Management every year. There's a balance sheet and a statement of changes with those for all of the governmental funds. And like I said, this mirrors the report that is issued to the Department of Management then called the GAAP report. And then Exhibit D and Exhibit F are the reconciliations to get from one to the other. And I could talk for days and days on that. So if you want to hear all of that, you just let me know and I can give you all that information. Exhibit G, H, and I are for your proprietary fund, which is your health insurance fund. And it shows the statement of net position, statement of revenues, expenses and changes, and then also the cash flow. So you did have a modest net income for that for the year. So, you know, that's always a good thing to hear. Counties tend to struggle with health insurance and trying to provide good coverage for their employees while still keeping it affordable. So to have a modest increase like that, you know, that's a good thing to see because a lot of the programs that we've seen in the last year haven't been so fortunate. So the notes to the financial statements then start on page 34, and this gives a lot of detail about accounting policies and procedures for the county. It talks about different types of assets and liabilities and gives all the definitions and descriptions for all of that. Also in the notes, we have more information about your cash and cash equivalents. It talks about the detail of interfund transfers. There's more information on capital assets, amortization schedules for all of your debt. And I will point out that the crossover refunding was completed during this fiscal year, so you got rid of a lot of the debt. It was all refunded, paid off, so it's gone. There's also more information on the pension plan through IPERS. All of this information is provided from the actuary and from the state auditor's office. The state auditor's office goes in and they audit the reports for IPERS, and they provide the liabilities and the proportionate shares for all of the counties. Page 49 is note 7. Yep.
What is our unfunded liability on that?
Right now?
Yeah.
Well, right now IPERS does not have any issues. So they're 82% funded. And so the total.
Well, doesn't that tell us right away that there's a 18% unfunded?
But it's not gonna ever, I doubt that it's ever gonna come to that. Your portion, your proportionate share of the net pension liability is 3.5 million. And I'm getting that off page 15. So note 7 is the actuarial information that they use to compute that IPERS liability. It has all the actuarial information. It talks about what IPERS is invested in on page 52. It talks about the asset classes and the allocations. The rest of the notes give information about your insurance, both general liability and your health insurance. Note 10 is your other post-employment benefits, and again, that's more actuarial information provided by Bob Hobson, who is your actuary that calculates that for you. Then we have required disclosures about your tax abatements and county social services. That note's on page 59. That gives the detail of the revenues and expenditures
I'm
related
sorry
to.
for so many questions.
You're
Go
fine.
back to 52.
Yep. Okay.
Maybe you don't have an answer to this one, but isn't in both equities there, isn't that awful positive thinking?
That's provided by the actuary, so that's what they have used, and that's what IPERS have used to calculate,
And
so.
it's been sitting at 2% for years.
No,
Okay,
that's what they've used, and that's what they provided us to use in this report, so
that's
they.
what makes me leery about the liability.
They provide us with all that information, and then we just go ahead and put that in the report, so. Okay, so page 59 has the Winnebago County portion of the county social services. So it shows the revenues and the expenditures that flowed through the county for the year. Note 15 on page 60, that's our accounting change and restatement for the OPEB. And that goes ahead and describes how the restatement took place for the year. So your net position last year at June 30, 2017 was $16,060,383. And so the net OPEB obligation measured under the previous standards had been $429,000. And then after Bob Hobson performed the got this actuarial magic wand out, the restated amount at July 1st was $355,164. So actually your liability has gone down a little bit using the new standards. And so your net position as restated then was $16,134,935.
What are some things included in OPEB?
Other post-employment benefits is
Yeah.
because you offer health insurance to employees after they have retired. Yeah, that's what triggers it. It's an implicit it's an implicit thing. So, but Bob contacts Carla's office every year for the information, and she gives him the employees' dates of birth, length of employment, that type of thing, and then he works his magic. Okay, then on page 62, this is the cash basis, the budgetary comparison schedule that's required to be in here because the county does budget on the cash basis of accounting. So the actual column is the actual cash that went through the governmental funds for the year. The column that's titled less funds not required to be budgeted, that is your drainage because those are not included in your budget or your cash report. And that gets you to your net, and then you can look at the budget to actual comparison. The original column is your original certified budget, and then the final column is after the last amendment that was passed during the fiscal year. There was one big thing that stuck out, and that's the debt service line item. And the crossover refunding was completed during the fiscal year, but it had not been included in the budget amendment. So that's what that $14 million is because all of that went through that escrow account and had not gone through the budget process. So that's the one point I wanted to talk about there. The following schedules then are some more required supplementary information about the budget, and then also about your IPERS on page 65 and 66. That's all required by the IPERS to show the trends for the last several years. Page 69 starts the non-major funds, balance sheets, and statement of changes for the non-majors. At the front of the financial statements, they're presented in the non-major column, and these statements just give information on some of the smaller special revenue and capital projects funds that the county has. Schedules 3 and 4 then are about the fiduciary funds. Those are going to be your schools, your townships, your corporations, where the county performs the tax collecting and then goes ahead and apportions it back to those entities. So that's the accounting for those funds. And then Schedule 5 just shows a 10-year comparison for the governmental funds, so you can see some trends there. On page 83, we're at Gardner and Company letterhead again, and that is our independent auditor's report on internal control. And again, as part of the audit, we do limited internal control procedures, and we talk with department heads about internal control and segregation of duties. And then that leads into the findings, which start on page 85. And of course, we have segregation of duties again. That's something that we're going to have every year, and we talk about every year with the department heads and elected officials. Yeah, it's an old friend. So, we just encourage everyone to evaluate their procedures, cross-train employees. If somebody's on vacation, make sure somebody's performing those duties while that person is on vacation. And it's good for them to be gone for a week at a time, and that way you're through the whole cycle. So it just keeps the discussion open. The second finding is in regards to financial reporting, and this year we had material amounts of expenditures and accounts receivable that hadn't been properly recorded or classified on the financial statements. This was found during our audit test work, so we proposed adjusting journal entries that were made by the county so that those transactions are properly included in the financial statements. So
When that happens, do you look closer at the numbers?
it depends on what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. But usually a finding like that will trigger something a little deeper. Yep. And again, with our tests and samples, we start with a sample size, and then if we find something that doesn't look quite right or we question, we definitely expand the test work to include more in that area. So you start in one place and see where it leads you, and if we need to expand testing, we sure do. And then on page 86, we have the preparation of full disclosure financial statements. And because you don't have a CPA on staff that prepares the GAAP report and the full accrual financial statements and footnote disclosures, I'm required to put this finding in because we assist with the preparation of that. And ultimately, Carla approves the draft of the financial statements before they get issued. So the county takes the full responsibility, but we just assist her to get through that process. On page 87 starts the findings related to the required statutory reporting, and along with auditing the financial statements, the State Auditor's Office provides us with a compliance guide that we go through every year and test certain code compliance requirements. It changes every year. We're looking at different pieces. There's some things that we look at every year, like the budget, but then they kind of rotate, so we're looking at different things in different years, and then we report on them accordingly. And again, our findings are based on our test work. We don't look at every single transaction that goes through, so the findings are based on the items that we have tested.
Is there a number of budget amendments, the number of budget amendments? Every time we do a budget amendment, that number, does that trigger anything?
No. Counties have the discretion to do as many or as few as they want. We have some counties that they'll do 4 or 5 a year, and we have some counties that they'll do 1 a year. And it's all, personal preference of the supervisors and how they want to handle that. Yep. So the first finding is certified budget, and we had amounts that had gone over in the debt service function, and we had a couple departments that had exceeded the amounts appropriated. Also, the budget certification date from the Department of Management was after the March 15th deadline. So, we had a couple issues there. And then as far as making sure that the amendments walk from one to the other. So when you have your original budget document, you have your approved budgeted revenues and expenditures. So when you do a budget amendment, the first column on that should match what the certified budget is. And then you go ahead and you amend those numbers to get to the first amended number. And then when you go ahead and amend again, those numbers should walk. And they didn't this year, so we have a finding about that.
How did that get rectified?
There is no. You contact the Department of Management if you find that. And what happens is the signed document, which is the budget amendment, that is the official document. So, in most cases, or you hope that the starting number wasn't lower than what you thought it was going to be, because then ultimately the ending number is going to be lower than what you thought it was going to be. But for, the code interpretation says that whatever is signed as the document of record, that's, what you're basing your opinion on. For the business transactions on page 88, we did have some related party transactions, but they were all entered into properly. The code dictates that the threshold for a potential conflict of interest is $1,500. So anything under $1,500 is not considered to be a potential conflict. The two that are above that $1,500 threshold were entered into properly, meaning that it was either a competitive bid process or the related party didn't participate in the acquisition of the services. So those are the kind of the loopholes for that. So everything was okay. So then this just becomes a disclosure. There's no finding associated with that. And then on page 89, We have one in regards to the sheriff's office, and deposits are not being made in a timely manner and are not necessarily being remitted on a regular basis. And so we've talked with Sandy about that, and hopefully that will be taken care of, or already is taken care of.
Who would the other agencies be under that?
If they're remitting like gun permit dollars to the state, that type of thing. Yep, yep. And that's it for report findings. Now, with non-report findings, we do have one of those, and that is in regards to the infrastructure lives used for depreciation methods for secondary roads. The Secondary Roads Department uses the GASB 34 infrastructure reporting model provided by the Department of Transportation to keep track of all their roads and bridges and the related depreciation. And the Department of Transportation has given them some guidelines as far as useful lives. And that doesn't mesh up with what the county has approved for their capitalization policy. So it's just a matter of having the board readopt the capitalization policy using the Department of Transportation recommendations for the infrastructure. So the original capitalization policy was passed probably back in 2002 or 2003 when GASB 34 first took effect. So it's been around for a long time, and those useful lives probably did need to get updated. So the Department of Transportation, like I said, they have kind of changed their guidelines a little bit, so the county just needs to update those useful life years. Pardon?
Is that a must?
It should be consistent, yeah. Yeah, but it's an easy fix. Like I said, it's just a matter of updating the useful lives on that policy, and that way everybody's in agreement. So do you guys have any other questions or concerns that I can help with?
I'm sure I will after.
Okay.
I know you love to talk for hours.
I do. I could go on and on and on and show you how we get to all the numbers, and I'm kind of a nerd that way. I like the numbers.
Yeah.
So
That would be a great ISAC educational forum or seminar.
to go through this and
Yes.
explain.
Yes, it would. You know, I'll guarantee, I could include myself. I'll bet you that 99% of the supervisors have no clue how
Yeah.
to truly read this.
How to read it. Yeah.
So,
Like I said, I love it. I could talk about it for hours and hours and hours because it's just very interesting to
I
me.
beat my head against the wall talking ISAC, provide a seminar on this, but they won't do it.
Well, and I think especially when you have new supervisors coming on board too, and
Absolutely.
you know, a lot of them have that, you know, business background, and so they understand how, you know, it works in the private sector, but this is so completely different from everything out
Such a
there.
complicated mess that-
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So I think that that would be a very beneficial session for
Absolutely.
a lot of
I think
supervisors.
it'd be almost something they'd have to have more than 3 days on to get.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. To go through and explain everything we do to get it from a cash basis all the way through to the full accrual, you know, there's a lot of good information there. So
I've asked every year since my third year, for
Yeah.
them to provide this for us.
yeah.
Well,
Well, like I said, I try to keep it short and sweet for the supervisors meetings. But yeah, if we're here, you want to know, I'll lay it all out for you how we get from one to the other.
Who do you ask?
we'd have to put a
No,
seminar
like
on.
which person?
Oh, I'm blanking on that. Well, I talked to Binkin, for one thing, and the head guy. I'm blanking right now.
Bill
JB.
Peterson.
Bill Peterson.
Bill Peterson.
You know,
I'll talk to Brad Bolton because a lot of times you talk to Brad, it gets done.
okay,
So I'll talk to Brad.
I'll call him too then. I personally think it's vital.
It
You
is.
know,
Well, and especially if you're getting questions in the field about the $14 million.
Yeah.
You know, this kind of shows where that,
Number came from.
Yeah,
right? If it's the
exactly.
same thing that people.
if that's
think
actually what they're talking about.
I'm curious how they found out about the 14.
yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there have been people in my office asking about our debt, and so I try to explain it to them the best I can, but
Well, and the crossover refunding gets very confusing because you have to show both of them. When you issue debt and to refund a debt that's not callable, it gets confusing because you do have to show both of the debts until the crossover refunding
I suppose
happens.
because of the amendment last year, it showed up even more so.
Yeah.
The visual.
Like I said, I try to explain when they come in, but
Well,
sometimes
and-
what I say and what they hear are two very different things.
Governmental receipts and disbursements and the policies and procedures that go with it are so different than
Mhm.
the private sector. And a lot of people try to, go ahead and implement what happens in the private with the governmental, and it doesn't work that way, and they just don't understand, so.
So I've been waiting for this artificial intelligence stuff is something that we all need.
Okay,
Further questions?
all right. Well, you know how to get a hold of me if you
After I
do,
go to the
so.
seminar, I'll have lots of them.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I think I did have one more thing I wanted to do. We don't technically have to approve it.
No, no.
Okay.
This is just, courtesy to go through with them, and if they have any questions or concerns, and you guys know that you are able to contact us throughout the year if you have questions or concerns, so. You do, yep, Carla and Julie both do, Chris does, so, yeah. Anytime you need something, just let us know. Okay,
Scott does every time.
Scott
he
does
tells-
too,
Every time
yeah.
he does what I tell him, then he calls her. and-
Usually if he wants to issue debt or if he wants to buy something, I hear from him, so. Which is good, I'd rather have him call and do it correctly than
Yeah.
have a problem down the road, so keeps everybody out of trouble that way.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you very much.
And I do understand that we will not get to even a high school graduate level on understanding the reports, but it would be nice to, if things pop out at us, to maybe have a
Oh, yeah,
remedial answer to it. So, yeah.
all right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, back to number 9.
Wasn't up there.
The walls up there.
People that have minds like that.
Need the sheriff.
Couple of years of, she just catches on to it by road, but well, she had a background too.
Yeah, and she's been doing it for years too, so it's, see, if you've been doing something for 20 years,
Second nature.
yeah, it gets to be,
But that has discipline to do with ISAC. I'd love to stand up in the supervisor's session and ask a question about the budgets and see how many would raise their hand to see who would answer.
how many of them really do understand it completely.
Exactly.
I'm gonna take off, gentlemen. Thank you for your time.
All right, yeah,
Have a good day.
yeah, thanks for sitting in, it's,
You bet.
it keeps you on the edge of your seat, doesn't it?
You wanna learn how it works, you gotta come see it, I guess.
We're just kind of disappointed we didn't get to present a lot of drainage to you today, because that's usually what it takes
Oh,
some time.
yeah,
I'm sure,
last
yeah.
week drainage took up the hour and a half, I bet.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, you start talking about water moving, that gets everybody excited.
yeah.
Sure did.
Yeah, was it last week we approved the budget? Or we had the public hearing for the budget? We had all these people, and we had this room full for drainage.
Sure.
As soon as it came to the budget, they were out of here.
Yeah, they didn't stick around for the real important stuff.
Right,
Yeah,
where's the money going?
yeah, it was, I figured out one thing, you gotta take the high ground,
That's all you can do.
just like in war. You take the high ground.
Meaning we're buying on it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Thank you,
have a
gentlemen.
good day.
What's his dad's name?
Lori and
It was a Don in my
Dale.
class or my brother's.
Dale does.
Dale.
Yeah.
He's got brother Jim.
Is he related?
No, Ben.
Yeah, I should have asked him how he was related to Arnie Dungy. He was always center, he just died. I like Darren, I worked with him at the elevator years ago. He used to have it flat and all.
Sure.
Is it possible for me to get a copy of the budget you approved last week? And the resolution?
It's on the, Iowa Department of Management website.
The what department?
Iowa Department of Management website.
Okay.
And I also would have sent it into the paper. It was published in February, the end of February,
Okay.
in your paper.
Here's what really drew me on that 14 million. It was Gary that told me, but it was through.
Yeah.
And he's no dummy.
Who was it? Huh.
It was probably through that amendment process that it was explained that there's 14 million just showed up.
That guy from Cassuth.
Joe.
Yeah.
He's the one starting all these rumors over there.
Who is he?
Joe Doshi.
Oh, he's been,
He's
yeah,
got windmill diet, isn't he?
He was here, yeah, stirring the pot when we first started with these turbines.
he tried, he ran against Roger Jarks, got beat badly. Even in commercials on the radio.
Is Brad Holton?
Brad Holton. I have found that if you want something done at ISAC, he was the guy to talk to.
So he's one of them that's fanning the flames on our debt coming from the destruction of our secondary roads because of the wind turbine companies. So if he's called you many times, I'm assuming you weren't telling him that that's what it came from. A 20% tax increase.
So what he's calling me about is he wants to, like, you know, our debt is with Bankers Trust for the windmills. He wants to be able to bid on our debt so that he can collect the interest from it. I'm like, it doesn't work that way. I mean, like, Northland Securities goes out and gets bids and.
Yeah.
Is he a bond trader?
Yeah, he's a farmer.
He's
But
got,
the only
he's
one
got
that you
19
possibly
million
bid on
to
would be
play around with.
general application.
I know he's a fairly well-to-do farmer, but I didn't realize it was that well-to-do.
Well, if he could buy good money.
Yeah.
He wouldn't want to buy him anyway with the interest rate we got.
What was that?
Proof.
I did.
You got the.
Yep.
Look.
It's almost easier before when they received what was bigger.
Yeah, maybe you can blow up again like that. I'll take that stamp for good. For you.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, we gotta do it again?
Or just leave it over there.
A lot of overtime in these.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an ugly few days there.
It's not over.
No, man, all the architects in the come fix the roads.
Yeah, plowing and blading roads is two different things. It takes a lot more time to shape a road.
I think they use up 20% of the budget though. No.
And some of it has to be expensed
So
yet.
it's a time delay thing.
No, I know.
When he gave
He
that
does
estimate,
that.
he was still putting,
I don't, what did he say, 600,000,
Yeah.
500,000,
Yeah.
$100,000?
From what I can see, there's a lot of spots. Usually they really need to, we need to get a crown back on some of this stuff. Because you get those flat spots and they got that lip on them that holds, the water sits there.
Do we need to investigate those two operators?
I think one of them doesn't run a maintainer anymore. If I remember right. And it's just like everything else, they just started,
Yeah.
we gotta learn, but you gotta learn in a hurry.
Yeah.
And there's a science to it. There's some guys, some people have the eye for that stuff and other people don't. I mean, you get one guy that can run a backhoe so dang smooth, you can't believe he isn't part of it. And then the next guy is jerking the bucket all over. Knucklehead was working on the pipeline, he thought he was a cowboy. He's gonna be a backhoe operator. He basically about killed a couple of us.
Yes, there are guys that don't even need a transit to.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah. One time he thought we were working in a peat bog, and he took a big scoop out, and he swung all the way around and come behind me, and I was dragging some tile in over there, and I've got my hip waders on, and I'm in up to my knees down here sinking in that stuff, and he dropped that big old blob right behind me, and I dragged him on the backhoe.
Did you?
Well, we were. He's lucky there was other people there. I may have drowned him in the mud.
I mean, he was doing it for practical joke?
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and the way it was water and mud and all that wasn't as bad as when he about broke my leg. Because
Oh, really?
Because my leg was
Yeah.
sunk in, and then that bottom dirt moved in the top here. Because I was stuck in the mud. I mean, I was trying to get myself to the
Most of it goes back to that, as you ever
And,
Oh. It is funny if it wasn't dangerous.
well, and I'll have to admit, but before it was over, I was probably laughing. But he was gonna get money too.
Well, I'll entertain a motion for the payroll claims.
I'll second it.
Motion from Stanford, a second from Jansco to approve the payroll claims. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.